Aussie Lawn Stars.
I've not been in an industry that's, I wouldn't say negative, but I wouldn't say high vibed and energetic. So I'm not talking about people how efficient they mow a lawn or how well they cut and so forth. I'm not even remotely saying that, but I don't. It's been an industry that I find it very. There's not a lot of. I haven't experienced a lot of high vibe camaraderie. You got to understand, I come from a very extensive fitness background, and you can say whatever you want to that, but
Sure.
it's still an industry. It's an industry where people thrive off other people's successes, right?
Yes.
You've done well, and I'm on your team, so we've done well, right? So
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of that within the industry now.
Yep.
I can't say why. We all have our own demons in our head. We're all juggling 20 balls at once. I've got 3 businesses here. So you can't say that, but I do. It's just it's a different vibe. I shouldn't use the word vibe, but it is a different. The industry I'm from is very motivational and get up, get them, and don't hit the snooze button and all that sort of stuff. And
why do you want them to listen to your podcast?
So that when they think about starting a business, they've got the content that is pointing them in the right direction.
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
The change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
So I've got a theory about that.
Shoot, because I'm very curious.
My theory is this. If you look at statistics, let's make up some statistics again just for BS sake, right? Jim Penman, you know who Jim Penman is, he will very happily state, 95% of franchisees succeed. And 95%, and this is of course made up, I'm not saying these are accurate, 95% of independent guys fail. Right? The biggest difference and the reason why this industry is so contrasting to the fitness industry, a lot of people starting a lawn care business are going from I hate my job to I'll create myself a job.
Yeah.
So when you go from I hate my job to I'll create myself a job, you still got that employee mentality. You haven't actually thought about it from a business perspective. You don't really understand how to make profit or even consider profit. Most people who start will barely get from the beer money stage to I can actually make an income out of this. And let me clarify that. If they do get to the stage where I can make an income out of this, that's all they're doing. They're not actually making profit. All they're doing is replacing one $60,000 wage with another $60,000 wage, but where you're directly responsible for the customers that hire you and fire you.
Yeah. Well, I think with the franchises as well, let's just say you and I go out on our own, we've got no tools. We can go spend what? You've got a ute, I've got a trailer. We can go spend 10K and be kitted out.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the quality of equipment, but we're kitted out. We can go make money.
I talk about the guy with a hatchback. So, your old KE laser, Ford laser KE models with the mower.
There's still guys doing it.
The Ryobi mower, the Ryobi whippersnipper, and Ryobi needs to sponsor me for saying this. A lot of people have been asking about which brand of battery tool to buy, and I don't like to recommend one brand of battery for everyone or every situation. Dealer support and access to parts and service all play a big role in that decision. Some brands have better tools for specific needs or each product category. I've been using a variety of brands, and I endeavour to provide unbiased interviews on Aussie Lawn Stars with as many of those product brands as possible. I reached out to Ego Power Plus through the podcast because of how Barry supports the industry and Ego owners. Barry has impressed me with his loyalty to customers in providing support and listening to the needs of the industry, which has resulted in a full lineup of new commercial tools landing in Australia over the last 12 months that has positioned Ego as a leader in the commercial tool space for outdoor power equipment. Visit egopowerplus.com.au to see if they have the tools you need today. They're out there making money.
They are. But I think the difference is with that as well is that if you've bought into a franchise, you've already said, look, this is X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
I've kind of got to make it work. Like I've invested quite heavily into this.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset would change. I've been in a franchise, not with mowing, of course, but I've been in franchises. I never would again.
Yeah.
But did it make me feel like I had help? I guess I did, actually. Now I think about it.
Yeah.
Do you really have help?
Yes or no? I say it like this. If you join a Jim's franchise, and I'm not paid by Jim, pay me, just like Ray Obi, right?
Sure.
Jim gives you systems that you have to create yourself if you start independently. So if you start with the gyms, and I'm going to hear from half a dozen gyms guys going, you have no idea, and those systems aren't actually that good. Whereas most of the gyms guys will go, yeah, the systems actually do the basics and they do what they need. They get you started with some business stuff that means that you can actually go out there and be profitable, and away you go. And then if you want to do what you've done and you go, okay, I want to start putting on teams of employees, Jim's keeps the main system that's beneficial, the leads, pumping through.
Yep. I think the key word in all of that was systems.
Yeah.
Having that system in place is the key to success. You can't wing it. And if you are winging it, all power to you, but you're going to get to a point where winging it ain't going to help.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
and that's the key. I think that's the major thing with franchises. There are already systems for someone that has no idea, that's mowed their lawn as a kid. There are some systems in place, but
Yeah.
How many people want to go to their next door neighbour and knock on the door and ask to do their lawn?
Yeah.
It's a hard way of generating leads. Do I think it's an effective way? I think it probably in this day and age it would be effective. I think some people would love a knock on the door, to be real. I think there'd be some people that don't want to knock on the door.
Yeah. I think if you are building a run that is residential, face-to-face knock on the door is probably one of those things that's going to get you through the next 5 years of financial hardship. If you do a lawn in that street already and you knock on 3 doors either side of that lawn, then you're building relationships that are easy for them to go, I can see what quality of work you do. If I like it, I'm interested.
Because the number on the side of your van or your ute or whatever doesn't mean someone's going to call. I have a 1-800 number that isn't an overseas number. It's directed. It's set up in such a way that I filter calls where they need to go.
Yeah.
And it's an easy number to remember. It's why I paid for it.
Yeah.
But I can't say people are lazy. They just want to pick up the phone. They don't even want to pick up the phone, even though they've got the phone in their hand because they're on Facebook and so forth.
Yeah.
They still don't want to use it. So going to people's houses, if you're that way inclined, I think is very, very effective.
Yeah.
We're programmed lazy when it comes to that sort of thing. We are. All of us are. So Resi, yeah. I think that sort of stuff really works well, but it goes back to systems. Like you can't have a successful, even one-man show being profitable. I guess let's wind it back a bit. If you've got a mortgage and you're doing this, you're going to learn soon enough if you're profitable or not.
Oh yeah,
because you can make a loaf of if you're poor, you can make a loaf of bread last 2 days, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, when the bank asks for their money, they don't give you 2 days.
I floundered for the first few years in terms of profitability, just barely making ends meet, and my wife saying, "Go get a real job."
Yeah. Okay.
And it wasn't until I replaced one accountant with another accountant, and the accountants that I got on board sat down with me and said, "Let's look at what you're doing and how much money you're making."
Sure.
It was humiliating, but at the same time empowering.
Of course, if you're in business and you're not aligned with your accountant, and I don't mean I've got a good accountant that's really good with the books. They all should be because they're accountants, right? But if you're not aligned, if you're not having a meeting with your accountant once a year, and I'm not including around tax time,
Yeah.
I'm not including that. If you're not, you don't have the right accountant.
Yeah.
Whether your business is like mine, like yours, I've got a rough idea how yours works. Either way,
Well, this is where I insert an ad break for my accountant and encourage people to come and talk to an accountant that will actually do that, sit down with them and have regular meetings and talk about how they run their business, not just how to do tax.
My accountant prints out 8 to 9 to 10 pages of everything. And like people go, oh, you pay for it. But you know what? You pay for what you get. That attitude, oh, with accountant, my accountant's good because they're, reasonably well priced. I don't think my accountant's overpriced. However, they're in line with me in over-servicing the client.
Yeah, and I don't think mine's overpriced either, but they're not H&R Block.
Mine either.
And let's give full recognition. H&R Block do what they do. They do it well.
Correct.
But
Correct.
it's not a business accountant.
It's definitely not. See, I'm very fortunate enough for my accountant to be a broker as well. And people go, oh, what's if I need money, they've got all the details. Like it's really, that's a pro tip for any of the young players out there. If you can double up an accountant as being a broker, I'm telling you right now, it is one of the smartest plays you can have.
Now, I've come across this a couple of places, and I'm guessing this is where you're going with that. I've seen several people who talk about starting your business with the point of view of selling it. And if you're never going to sell it, that doesn't mean you shouldn't run it like you want to be able to sell it. So if you never want to sell it and you want to run it terribly, there's another podcast I'll recommend for you.
Yeah, that's right. Look, the old saying of run a business at a loss isn't the best practice because you may not right now. No, I'm not selling. No, not selling. Something might happen. You have an opportunity to sell. Your business isn't worth anything, and you're trying to get top dollar. It's not a very smart acronym to do that. I promise you, but where it is good is the guy who only does it part time, supplementing his income, or then running a loss is highly desirable.
The other place where it's worthwhile running at a loss is if you are starting Microsoft and you go, okay, the forecast for Microsoft is actually at the 5-year mark to not just break even, but be doing $1 billion turnover, right? You start by running at a loss. But a lawn care business is not Microsoft.
It's not Microsoft, no.
So a different type of business.
Yeah, look, it's one of those ones, right? Like, I guess, you've got to have a good indication of where you want to be with your business. You really do. If I hear a lot of talk about, I've got 80% resis and this and that, I think you need to scale that way back.
Yeah.
And realize and you need to make a hard decision of where you only see yourself not only this season, but in 3 to 5 seasons later. And you should have an idea of where you want to go. It doesn't mean that can't change, but I hear a lot of guys just like going with the flow. They got an extra 2 clients, so they're sweet, and where do you want to go? Oh man, I'm just, no, you need to have an idea. You need to have an idea. Once you've got an idea, I think it's very imperative that you find the steps in order to get you to where you want to go, right? It seems like we're talking like children, but because that's what you do in life, right? But a lot of people seem to overlook that with this type of business. I don't know too many other businesses, successful businesses in whatever industry, that don't have a clear, concise goal. I think let's just take a shop, for instance, you've got to do 6 weeks rent up front you need to fit it out. You need stock. You've already committed to 150K. You've got to be somewhat committed to the cause, right?
Yeah.
Where it goes back to, I've got a Ryobi thing. Someone gave me a Honda. They don't hold much weight in their business already, even though there's a lot of value in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the industry sort of is a little bit, I shouldn't use the word wishy-washy, but it kind of is. I've spoken to heaps of people and it's, I'm doing all right.
I think that's largely
You wouldn't
Largely because there's people out there that have simply created themselves a job. And we often refer to sole traders, but solo operator is probably the better term to look at. So somebody who's created themselves a job, they never want to have an employee, but they will consider putting an offsider on or a helper to get them through the busy period. And they're not doing it to make more money. They are just simply doing it to keep their customers happy until they can drop their helper at the end of summer.
So I think the question there would be, I understand that, but you're obviously trying to hit targets that you don't want to keep achieving, if that makes sense. So during winter, for instance, I've got 2 full-timers and six casuals, not including my partner who runs the operations. She's the operation manager.
Yep.
She has her assistant. Now, people might go, oh, this guy like blowing money. I'm telling you right now, having that assistant to the operations manager,
Yep.
it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
It's worth its weight in gold. How do we know that? Because we have profit and losses in place. We have systems in place. We know what everyone's strength and weakness is. But going back to what I was saying, my 2 full-timers during winter, and I work as well, so I might just say that. I don't just sit around and drive around my car and be quality control. I'm out working as well.
On the tools. Yep.
Yes, mate, because I don't believe a leader can lead without leading.
Yeah.
And I hold a lot of – I'm probably the oldest guy. Don't like saying it. I'm the oldest guy on the team. But I'll run rings around them, and that's not an ego thing. It's I have a lot of respect from the team.
Yeah.
Because I'm the first out and so forth. People might say it's your own business and sort of thing. And don't even get me started on that analogy.
Yep.
Because if someone has that attitude in my business, I don't want them in my business. I'm a massive team player.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so crazy, man. It's a very interesting industry where I've heard contractors only this winter going, "We've got no work." My guys couldn't have a break.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's okay for you. You must have some good contracts. Well, is it I have good contracts, or was I over servicing clients? Was I out getting new contracts? How can my business be so different to others?
Well, I think part of this is the way that you view things, right? So if you have in your mind that winter is slow, winter is quiet, and there's not much work to do, and let's face it, it's a seasonal industry, it's very easy to settle into that mindset. And if you've got the mindset, then come winter time, you reduce all your fortnightly and weekly jobs back to once every 4 to 6 weeks. You go, like I did, for a trip to Cape York for 3 weeks.
Which is unreal, mind you. If no one's ever done it, they need to do it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So a lot of people look at it from that point of view of going, I reduce my workload in winter, not because I choose to do it, but because there's no work there.
Yeah.
And I know the first year I started my business, I actually worked a different job through winter to get me through because I didn't have enough work the first year. But from then on, I always had enough work in winter, even though I would still choose to take holidays in winter because in this industry, when you're working on the tools and you're going to take time off, it's easier. But if you go, okay, for a workload for one person and you duplicate this, so you got 2 people, you got one staff member on, and you get to winter time, generally speaking, with the number of customers you've got, you will find gutter cleaning, you will find garden cleanups, you will find opportunities to do other enhancements to their property that you can do without needing to have a trade.
Correct. And that's, I guess that's the difference between proactivity and reactivity. You can be proactive, and it's through business, and it's quite easy to do. Especially, look, if you've been doing the little old lady next door, that's a bad example. If you've been doing anyone in the street for a couple of years, you've already got such a good report. How many visits have you done that year minimum? 20, 18, 20? How many hellos have you said? 18, 20? Not to mention the text messages and so forth of that. So you've already got such a rapport. You've got to look out the box. I met another guy the other day who works for the same. I do a lot for a particular real estate, and I mean a lot from their. I've sort of got their pre-sale contracts, I guess. I am a homeowner. I've got investment properties. I kind of know what it's like to be on all sides of the equation. So when someone's putting something on the market, I'm the first point of call. But I went to one of their functions and I was speaking to a lawn guy. And I thought, oh, this is cool.
Hmm.
No defensiveness. And he was saying, well, I only do lawns. I don't want to do nothing else. I said, yeah, but do you got a blower, right? He goes, yeah, you blow down the hard surfaces. I said, but do you get a shovel and clean out the front gutter? He goes, nah. I said, what? Why? He goes, just. But then I've been talking to him a little bit. There's days where he just doesn't have work.
Yeah.
So I'm confused in that sense. So, but that's pretty common as well, though, right? Like we've got I don't know, I won't go right into specifics, but I've got 896 reoccurring.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's big or small in the scheme of things, and I'll tell you why. Because I just don't focus on anyone else's business but mine.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
in the big scheme across Australia, the majority of lawn care businesses are solo guys or one person with a offsider. And they call them an offsider or a helper because they're not actually treating them like a proper employee.
Yeah, gotcha. So, yeah, that is still common. I see it every day. I go past 20, as we all do. We go past 20 contractors a day and you often see the lone soldiers and so forth.
Yeah.
And all power to them. Because you've got to remember, wind back 10 minutes ago, that's where I wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
That's what I did. I didn't have an employee. I bought a run and then wasn't happy with that. So I got more runs and then my network found out I was doing this. And then 6 months later, I'm putting a guy on. And then another 6 months later, I'm buying another van and got another guy on. And
Yep. Are you thinking of leaving your job to start a profitable and enjoyable lawn and garden business? Aussie Lawn Stars shares stories, lessons, and advice to help you grow a healthy, productive, efficient, and sustainable business. Got questions or want more information? Contact Aussie Lawn Stars at iCloud.com or reach out to Gary Ashton on Facebook or Messenger for personal help. But beware, your question may end up in a podcast episode. For business coaching that ensures the right mindset and decision-making approach, check out Think Tank Coaching. Their website is https://thinktankcoaching.com.au. They've been instrumental in helping me and can guide you towards achieving your business goals. You can also email them at thinktankcoaching@outlook.com. Need to set up best practices for bookkeeping, accounting, and business structure? Contact Adrian from Prosper Financial at 02 4977 3363. And don't forget to join Lawn Mowing Contractors Australia and Australian Professional Lawn Contractors Facebook groups. Great supportive communities focused on our industry.
so where I wanted to be with my business pathway was altered, quite heavily.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. I do see a lot of lone guys out there, but then I see the offsiders and things like that. But
Yeah.
I have my own ideas about offsiders and things like that. I like to grow people with the business.
Yeah.
I tell all my guys they're not lawnmower men. They're they're gardeners, or I find landscaping. I grew up in a time where landscaper was a real landscaper, not soft and hard landscaping.
Yeah.
I don't see mowing a lawn as landscaping. That may upset a lot of people, but each to their own right. I think we fall more into the gardener aspect of
Yeah. Well, I think the divide comes where people consider landscaping as in landscape construction or landscape maintenance. And you talk about soft versus hard as well. So landscape maintenance often includes that soft scaping where you might install plants or mulch. And install is an interesting word to use, right? Like you throw it in the garden bed, rake it around, make it look tidy.
correct. But I think the difference is what you call yourself. One of my guys that works for me, he came from another company, and I couldn't believe how it is, how she'll be right. It is.
Yeah.
I, you know, I'm massive for first impressions. As we have met face to face, I'm massive on first impressions
Yeah.
because you don't know who anyone is. You don't know who your next business partner will be, or your next. Oh God, you don't know who your next enemy is going to be, for that matter, right? So,
Yeah.
First impressions are quite big, and that's an industry that hasn't. I feel my personal belief is that it's look. We're humans. We're judgmental, and if you say you're not, you're lying, because we are. We're pre-programmed to be like this. So
I said that to somebody today, my new employee actually. I said, this is what I expect from you. I want you to have a go at doing it this way, because he was talking about, mowing in a circle and like start at the outside and mow until you get to the center. And I said, look, at that in a profession, we don't mow in a circle, we mow straight lines.
yes.
And I said, go out there and practice doing straight lines. I'm not judging you, but in reality, I am judging you, but I'm cutting you slack because you're new.
and that's the right thing of a leader, though, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, our uniform's pretty precise in a particular way. A lot of people will see us on job sites and go, "What are you? What are you, parking officers, or
Yep.
you work for national parks or something?" But
Yeah.
I think all that comes into play. You can't just cut a lawn and be on your merit. I think it's the full package.
Yeah.
You can't rock. I don't think you can rock up in a bomb car anymore. Like
Yep.
it doesn't mean you're not a good contractor. It doesn't mean you don't have money. It doesn't mean you don't have a good work ethic. I just think we're in a judgmental society.
Yeah.
You be careful. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I think people tend to fall into that category of where they feel comfortable, right? So if they look around at other contractors, they see people running around in a ute that's unsigned with some tools in the back of the ute, maybe a trailer that's got a cage on the back of it, and they go, okay, that's what you expect a contractor to look like. So I'll be comfortable if I look like that. Whereas somebody who's thinking about it from a business perspective starts going, okay, what's going to be the most efficient setup for me to run, and what's going to look the most professional for me turning up to a customer's place?
yeah, correct.
And you said something earlier about you talk to a customer over the course of a year, and it's probably 18 to 20 times, right? And I've looked at this going through some of the early customers I've had where they would say, oh, it doesn't really need doing, or can we do a 3-week schedule? And then that 3-week schedule ends up being 10 or 11 cuts a year. And I'm like, that's not where I want my business to be. 20 cuts a year minimum. So fortnightly for the growing season gives me 20 cuts a year minimum. And then I should be getting some extra services through winter with gutter cleaning or whatever else I might be offering.
Sure. That's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
But I make that pretty clear straight away as well, though. That price is based upon this many visits. Now,
Yep.
like, flexibility comes from flexibility, right? So
Yeah.
I won't, I've had my partner who runs the operation. She unfortunately has the uncomfortable situations, but 18 visits or 20 visits or 10 visits at $10 a head is the deal, and that's the deal. And a lot of people aren't in a position to sort of go, oh no, I've got to take what I can take. But
yeah,
you just like life, you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
And your clients aren't any different. So I'm big about sticking to my guns. Look, there has been times where I've said, look, no, I fully get it. If there's an excavator digging up their front yard, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and if you get drought, which you haven't seen in this business yet, because the last 2 years we have not really had a drought.
No.
But if you get a drought and there's nothing growing and you're making dust.
Yeah, well, that's why I diversified already for that. I used the pigmentation and but they still see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I'm still diversifying. I'm still trying to find that system. You know what I mean? So, but you're right. You do have that. I've got a mate in WA, and they suffer quite a bit over there.
Yeah,
they really do.
I've changed the way I deal with customers, and my situation. I'm dealing with large commercial contracts. I don't do any residential now, but when I talk to people about doing residential, I stop them from saying this is an $80 job, right? And that's typical in Australia. It's an $80 job, right? No, it's not an $80 job. It's 20 cuts a year at $80 per cut. That makes them a $1,600 job.
Correct.
Right? We really want that customer to be a $2,000 customer. So $2,000 a year. Start thinking about it as what they're worth for a year, and you start thinking about them in the right context. Maybe it's not the right context for you, but it helps you to look to do that perspective shift and go, okay, if this customer's worth $1,600 a year, if I offer gutter cleaning and 2 fertilizer treatments, they're worth $2,200.
Easy. And that's the thing about projection, having a good accountant and running a good business, because it's not the $80. It's really not the $80. It's the 88, because
Yep.
whether you pay cash or not, you can't go the servo. Like you know what I mean? You've got to look at it like that. And it is the 20 cuts a year. That's what you got to look at. You can't look at don't worry about them. They're only $50 a cut.
Yeah.
Well, it's not 50. It's $50 per visit, not cut per visit. And but yeah, I guess that's everyone's got their own different prowess as far as how they project business. But
Yeah.
I'm big on you can't be a big business without doing the small things right.
Yep.
And part of knowing where your dollars are, maximising. Everyone goes, oh yeah, you maximise your runs, but there's some days I've had to 20 minutes between drives. And people go, oh, I'm not driving 20 minutes between drives. But I have another thing about business. To be successful in business, you've got to do things that others aren't.
Yeah.
And where there's someone vocal on one of them Facebook groups that, I don't bloody do this unless I'm bloody doing that. Well, you know what? Like that's why you'll always have what you've got, because, so it's so interesting. It's so interesting, this field.
Yeah, people tend to get very vocal about this is the only way to look at things. And I love to talk about route density and how important it is to cut down the drive time in between jobs. It's the reason why I do large commercial contracts, because there's no drive time, right? My employee turns up on the commercial site and they get paid when they turn up, and they stop getting paid when they leave. So I don't have to worry about employees' unbillable hours in that sense. But if you're doing a residential run where you've got 2 employees in a van with you and they're doing 20 jobs in a day, you're still going to work out how you bill for the whole day to make sure that it's viable to have 2 employees sitting in the van, however much work they're getting done, that you've still got to pay them for the whole day. You've still got to make profit out of that whole day. So those 20 customers are going to be paying for the day.
Yep. Correct. But there are some times when you were doing your resis where sometimes your run just didn't line up. You know, it just, I do a lot of work for real estates, and as I said, the pre-sale stuff. So we're not talking, there's a mess. I do the end of bond mow or something like that occasionally. When I say the company does. Our pre-sale stuff is, some of these houses are $7, $8, $9 million. Like if I've got to drive out of my way for a potential $5,000 done in a day job, like, do you not drive it?
It brings it into perspective, doesn't it? Because if you're talking about driving out of your way for a $50 job, it's different to a $5,000 job.
Correct. So yeah, you've got you're not going to. I don't know. There's not many people that get out of bed for $50 anymore. I don't know if $50. Actually, we have a couple of $50 lawns actually, but I think they're overpriced at that, because it's the size of a dining table.
Yeah.
And it's right next to 3 others that we do. So, if I wasn't business orientated, I'd do it for free, if that makes sense. I almost feel bad for taking the $50. But I guess there's certain things you've got to weigh up as well too, right?
Well, I think that's where a lot of people talk about their minimum price. It's like if I'm getting out of bed, if I'm paying for my insurance and fuel in the vehicle, my minimum price to turn up, even if it's a $5-minute job, is going to be $50 or whatever they set their minimum to be. And I see this vary across the board. I've heard of minimums in today's dollars, $25 minimum or $150 minimum. I jokingly tell people my minimum's $50,000 because I'm doing commercial contracts. I'm not turning up for a job which is worth less than $50,000 a year.
And you know what? That's the way your business you want your business to run, and I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at it like that. I
Yeah.
really don't. But then again, it's evolved to be like that too, right?
Well, I've also shut myself out of a whole heap of work there in the residential market, and I am very mindful of that. So, yeah, it is what it is. Different people run businesses in different ways, and I look at that and I go, at the moment, that's working really well for me. I am mindful that I have limited my options and limited my growth by doing it too.
But yeah, does it work? But in saying that, at this stage right now, you've limited it. But there's no reason why you couldn't adjust that slightly and
Yeah, for sure.
and be back to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think where you want to be is the key point of this, right? Like it's where you want to be.
Yeah.
I see a lot of guys just saying yes to jobs. Yep, we'll do it, and they kill themselves trying to do it. I just don't know if that's
Yeah.
when's too much work.
This goes back to that 95% failure rate, right? The BS statistic.
Yep.
A lot of businesses fail in the first 12 months, and most of them fail in the first 5 years because they haven't accounted for those sorts of things. They haven't limited what they're willing to do, or set a minimum budget, or do a budget and set a goal for making a profit.
Budget's a big one. Let's be honest. Like,
efficiency is the thing that rules a business, and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas, and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right Standards go the distance, saving you time and money season after season.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.